So in this video, we're actually going to be talking about what the best MBA degree is for people who are looking to pursue investment banking when they graduate from their MBA program. Now, before we go into the video, I need to add this disclaimer. I don't work in investment banking, never have, probably never will either. However, I've analyzed the business school landscape as well as the MBA landscape in particular, and so hopefully I can provide some clarification on those of you who intend on pursuing an MBA with the intentions of eventually going into investment banking. Now, one of the things to note is that investment banking typically has a number of different starting points that they tend to recruit people out of, one of which happens to be right out of undergraduate degrees, postgraduate degrees. MBA is one of the specialized degrees. They look at other ones such as Masters of Finance candidates, even Master of Engineering, depending on the specific type of role. And so it's not necessarily exclusive to just MBA graduates. However, that typically is a very popular degree amongst a lot of people who pursue this field. One of the interesting things about investment banking is that it differs from a lot of other fields, and it's very similar to consulting in that it happens to be one of the only areas that looks at where someone went to school, what they studied, what their marks were like, what their standardized test scores were like. And so these happen to be a lot of the quantitative factors that they happen to focus on, in addition to a lot of the qualitative aspects to the application as well. For this reason, you're going to hear a lot of people talking about target schools. And if you don't know what that is, that's typically a school where investment banks will typically recruit a lot of people out of. And so typically these happen to be the higher ranking schools. Ivy League, many of the Ivy League schools happen to fall within this, but there are specialized programs within specific universities that would fall within, the target school cluster of schools that you might be looking at. So that is something to keep in mind also. Now, more specifically, the interesting thing about the investment banking on the MBA recruitment level is that a lot of people who might be targeting investment banking might be coming from non-traditional backgrounds. So what I mean by this is that you might be coming from a science background, for example, or an engineering background, for example. You maybe have 1 or 2 years of experience. You're pursuing your MBA with the intention of making a career switch to investment banking. That's great, and that's awesome. There's plenty of people who've done it. One thing I will urge people to do is to really do your homework in terms of understanding what is going to make you as competitive as possible. Understandably, investment banking has a lot of people who look towards that direction. Traditionally, it's because they tend to have had the higher starting salaries of the MBA class. This still is true to a certain extent. There are other areas that recruit MBA candidates who have comparable starting salaries to people who go into investment banking, but it still happens to be one of the elite types of professions that MBAs will pursue. And so, for this reason, understand that the competition within your class and amongst other people coming from other schools is going to be quite fierce. Another thing to really understand is that perhaps in your MBA class, particularly if you're at a target school, you're going to be competing with a lot of people who might have a finance background already, or they might already have experience in some type of financial capacity, maybe an engineering capacity. So, a little bit of crossover there. That's particularly useful for people who want to go into like oil and gas and if you have a petroleum engineering undergraduate, for example, biotechnology is another one. So there's a bunch of different type of crossover degrees that can be equally as useful. And that brings me to my next point. I don't want anyone here to be discouraged from pursuing investment banking regardless of what your background is. A lot of people will look at the investment banking type of recruitment and the requirements, and they'll be really discouraged because maybe they came from a completely non-traditional background. They have no prior experience to finance, and they really get scared off by the amount of knowledge that they're going to need to learn and how hard it's going to be to break into the industry. What I really encourage people to do is to double down on the things that they're actually very strong at and the things that actually make them a little bit different. The really cool thing about investment banking is that you're going to be interacting with professionals across a bunch of different industries. And so it's actually very useful for investment banks to have people who come from a variety of different backgrounds, particularly when you are interacting with people from these industries, so people in biotech industries, oil and gas industries. If they have people who not only have the financial background, but also have the background in that specific topic or field, even if it comes just from the work experience, this can be a very, very important thing that'll actually help you stand out in a positive way. So that's something to also keep in mind. Another thing as well too is to understand what you could be doing in order to help you set yourself apart from some of the other candidates. So for example, are there areas that you can focus on before you even enter the program. So perhaps it's just equipping yourself with the knowledge that'll make you as competitive not only in a class, but in postgraduate recruitment as well. Things like working on the CFA, level one and level two, taking some part time accounting courses, working towards the CPA if you have some of the courses that'll help you sit for that. Definitely things that are going to help you out. Another thing is when you're in the actual MBA program as well, I highly encourage people to participate in as many of the investment banking type of clubs that exist, as well as case competitions, and just network as much as you can within the program as well as outside of the program as well. This is particularly true for people who come from a different type of industry, don't have a lot of crossover experience, and are looking to make the career switch. For this reason also, I would highly encourage people, if you're looking between like a 1 year program or a 2 year program, to pursue the 2 year program, if only because the internship between the first and second year is probably going to be extremely important for you to gain some experience in the field. Also, you'll probably really benefit from the first year of foundational courses that you'll need, and just essentially having the full year to digest all of it, as opposed to having a 1 year program. There are some in Europe as well as in Canada that'll condense everything into 1 year. But if you're really looking to dive deep into a specific area that you feel is going to be a transition for you, and it's going to be hard enough based off of your background and based off of what you feel like you'll need in order to be competitive, then that is something else to consider for a 2 year program. Lastly, the biggest thing that I really want people to focus on in terms of pursuing an MBA for investment banking is to really understand the value proposition that you're going to be getting in a specific degree. There might be situations where it doesn't make sense for you to go the MBA route. You might actually benefit more from going the Master of Finance route. You may benefit more from some other specialized degree that does have some recruiting in the investment banking field. The other thing too is to really understand whether or not you actually want to go into investment banking per se, or maybe there might be some other auxiliary roles that might be interesting to you as well too. Some of the technology type of roles. Also, perhaps also you'd want to determine whether or not you want to go to the advisory side, or if you want to actually go to the principal route and work in the actual investment banks as a type of investor per se. So these are all very, very important things to consider. The takeaway here is I don't want people to be discouraged based off of where they have come from and where they actually want to go. I think it's just more important, and the onus is really on the candidate to really identify where they are and where they want to be, and to find out what they can do to open as many doors as possible to get them there. A big tool in your toolbox is going to be networking. I can't emphasize that enough. What you should be doing, and particularly because the MBA is touted often as the networking type of degree, is you should be carving out a certain number of hours every single week in order to reach out to people, not even just from your alumni group, but people who are working in the industry and in the companies that you're targeting. As many doors that you can knock on as possible is going to be the most important for you. If you look at a lot of the salary reports for a lot of these target schools, you'll notice that a lot of the recruitment does come from on campus, and they're campus facilitated, school facilitated, and networking throughout the school. But a lot of it is student facilitated also. So a lot of the times, students will try to pursue their own opportunities so that when the time does come, they can actually pursue something that they're really interested and passionate about. So these are the things I really urge people to focus on. Thank you again for watching this video. If there are any questions that you have, please feel free to answer below. I've had some other previous videos that are kind of similar to this. I have a lot of crossover information. I definitely encourage you to check some of those out. Definitely check out a lot of the videos that come out in the future. I'm going to have a lot more videos that touch upon some of the same types of topics that were covered in this video. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.